Hello everyone, this is Greg. How are you this evening? Oh, our camera angle's off there a little. Well, it's the end of week 2 and the beginning of week 3, so here's our transition video. Got a little warm weather in Oregon this weekend, but not much. Still not there. So anyway, I wanted to talk about your research questions, which generally were very good. They were well thought out. They were the right scope. One of the things you want to keep in mind is that a research question is not a hypothesis as of yet, and so that's what will happen this week. So a couple of things to keep in mind. So some of the research questions were to the effect of, let me just give you some examples, and then I'm not being very specific for anybody here, but let's say we say something to the effect of what's the relationship between strengths-based training and academic performance? Okay, so that's a pretty good research question. But when you say what's the relationship between it, what precisely are you saying? Now, when you operationalize strengths-based training, are you saying a certain amount of people that have taken strengths-based training, and are you comparing that with academic achievement? So are you comparing that with test scores? So are you saying the group who has had strengths-based training has a higher mean score than a group who has not? So that you have to be very careful about exactly what you're saying. Okay? So this week you'll be taking constructs, which, like IQ is a construct, and a construct is operationalized by you answer, I don't know, whatever it is, all kinds of questions on an IQ test, and the way you answer those questions determines your IQ, and some expert has said this is how we determine IQ. So you'll take an abstract concept and you will operationalize it so that you measure it. So let's say classroom engagement by the teacher. What does that mean? Okay, a teacher is either engaging or not, but how do you measure it? So then it becomes a discrete variable. Or is there levels of classroom engagement? Like there are, like height. Can classroom engagement go from 0 to 10? And then you could correlate classroom engagement with GPA or the test scores of the student in the class. So this is the week where you become very specific as to what your hypotheses are. Now, the first thing to understand is, I want to get this clear before we go on in the course, because this will help you. People tend to write hypotheses that are a little windy and aren't to the point. Remember, there's only null hypothesis, and they can be directional or non-directional. And then there's alternative hypothesis, which are the opposite of that. So let me give you an example. A null hypothesis would be there's no difference in the mean score on a state assessment of 8th graders in County A and 8th graders in County B. So a null hypothesis always says there is no difference. The alternative hypothesis, which is the research hypothesis, should be phrased exactly the same way, but then with the negative. There is a difference in the mean score of 8th graders on the state assessment between County A and County B. So the hypotheses are the same except for the negation. Okay, the book doesn't quite make that clear. There's only two kinds of hypothesis, the null hypothesis and the alternative. Now the null hypothesis can be directional. For instance, the mean length of alligators in Louisiana is less than or equal to the mean length of the alligators in Florida. That's called a directional null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis would be that it's not true that the mean length of alligators in Louisiana is less than or equal to the mean length of alligators in Florida. So there's only two kinds of hypothesis, null and alternative. Sometimes the alternative hypothesis is referred to as the research hypothesis. And that's important because that's what you're seeking to find. So if you're a researcher and you believe that there actually is a difference in the length of alligators in Florida and Louisiana, you assume there is no difference, and then you're looking for statistical evidence based on the samples that there could be a difference. So that's what a research or alternative hypothesis is. And I sent out 2 documents early in the course on how to write hypothesis, and I'm going to send them out again. So this week we focus on operationalizing. You'll operationalize a construct. So you'll operationalize engagement or happiness or enjoyment or something. And you do that by building a survey with a series of Likert questions that can be answered, and the score on that survey determines your level of the variable of that construct. So turning the construct into something that can be measured is the focus of the week. So generally I just want to say the writing's been really strong. I appreciate that. Always just take time to make sure your sentences are not too long, they're clear. Remember, this is academic writing. It doesn't have to be hugely interesting, somewhat interesting, but make sure your sentences are crystal clear. They're not run on, and things are going very well, so I appreciate it. Be available for any kind of help you need. I have to go somewhere tomorrow night, but this is now, I believe, it's either this week or next week when we start using SPSS, so make sure your SPSS works, and then I'm going to be sending out some information as to how to format the output of SPSS, statistical calculation. So everyone have a good week, and I appreciate your hard work, and feel free to contact me anytime. So here we go for week 3. Everybody have a good evening. Bye.